my name is Karen Vallier, and I'm a member of the Ontario Developmental Services Innovative Housing Task Force, and I'm here with my colleague, Marge McCabe. I'm also the Executive Director of Total Communication Environment.
Check.
So it's my pleasure to tell you about our task force and give you a bit of an overview of the work of the task force since 2014. That's when we were established, and it's the first time that, in our sector anyways, really a cross-sector group came together, made up of different ministries, Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, the Ministry of Housing, and of course our Ministry of Community and Social Services, as well as representatives of municipalities, and of course people that were individuals with developmental disabilities, as well as families, advocates, and community members, and there was a couple of agencies as well, came together with the purpose of looking at housing solutions and ideas that weren't currently being funded within the reason for that, I need to tell you as families, there's a very long waiting list for supports and services, and with that in mind, knew that it was really time to look at something different. So our mandate, in terms of reference that we were provided with by our ministry, was to develop a framework and identify capacity building projects for government investment. So what that really means is over the course of those 4 years, we sent out 2 expressions of interest, really asking people to put forward proposals. And what was important about those proposals was that they would involve partnerships with families and individuals, also with other sources such as it could be municipalities, ministry funding, but also community groups. So we saw many different proposals that could have involved a church or help me out, Marge. Anyways, many different kinds of partners. Habitat for Humanity and others. So the other thing that we had to do was identify performance indicators, and that sounds kind of boring, but really it was how were we going to assess proposals as they came in. And over the course of those 2 expressions of interest, we funded 18 projects. We were given a budget to work with, and 18 projects were funded. We received, I think it was close to 360 proposals, so it was a really difficult process, but at the same time really uplifting because there's so many good projects. You can't hear me? Okay, sure. I'm sorry. Do you want me to repeat any of that, or? Sorry? Okay, so I'm sorry about that. So we developed a framework for assessing projects that we would recommend for government funding. We made recommendations to government. It wasn't within our authority to actually fund them. The other important thing to mention, though, is that we weren't just looking at projects. We were also looking at developing web-based resources for families. So within our first year, we developed, or I guess we established a Facebook group for families and individuals that were interested in innovative housing solutions. And then we went on to do some other research, which was involved all kinds of stuff, from looking at research that was already currently done in other areas of the country, also looking at membership in other groups such as the Ontario Municipal Social Services Association. We attended many conferences and did some presentations as well on research and provided briefs to government. The principles that were the guiding principles of developmental services transformation were very important in assessing the proposals. They were based on citizenship, fairness and equity, accessibility, portability, safety and security, accountability, and sustainability was something that was very important, because although we were recommending funding, And I'm happy to say that the projects were all, the funding to individuals that were supported through those 18 projects continued. So it's not like the money was pulled back after 2 years. But it was important that there be those partnerships so that those projects would be maintained. And that really MCSS funding was one piece of it, not the whole thing. So, Marge?
Thanks. Thanks, Karen. My name is Marge McCabe, and I'm a family representative at the Housing Task Force. So I'm just going to speak briefly about the Housing Task Force projects. As Karen said, there was $3 million times 2 years for the projects. The first proposal call was 2015, and the 12 recommended to the ministry were accepted for $3.47 million over 2 years. The second proposal call was 2016, and the 6 projects recommended by the Housing Task Force were accepted for funding of $2.13 million over 2 years. And as she said, we had over 300 proposals. So the review committee spent hours reviewing, rating according to the set criteria that we had. And it was really hard to decide on 18 projects because there was many excellent ones. So there's many submitted that could have gone forward had the budget been there. The criteria for recommending the proposals had to they had to demonstrate how they differ from the MCSS transfer traditionally funded group homes and supported independent living programs. They had to show how they differ. They had to offer the best opportunity for learning and the best value for money. They had to show that they had established partnerships, including individuals, families, community members, groups, and as well various levels of government and private providers. And they had to promote person-centered approaches through community inclusion and supports. The Housing Task Force is now in its final stages. I don't know if that's working. Anyway, we're now in the final stages of our work, and we are compiling information and preparing final reports, including recommendations to the government. If you haven't already gone to the website for the Housing Task Force on Facebook, we invite you to go there. And we have provided some links here, but we will pass out a handout that has all those links on it. Let me see. And there is a digital booklet to be found on Partners for Planning website. That also describes all of the projects and any updates that have come forward. As well, you'll find a conversation with the Housing Task Force chair and co-chair at that same site. And for families who do not have access to internet, we have a handout that describes the 18 projects. So it gives you some idea of who they were, where they're located, and what we were looking for. All the links provided, of course, I said, will be in the handout either at our booth after or in the swag bag. And we are happy to have the individuals here from the 3 locally funded projects. LiveWorkPlay, Grace Hudson, is Just Enough Support is their project. What's that? And for from CFFO, okay, sorry. Sorry. Can't hear.
They can't hear us.
Okay. CFFO, they're moving to my own place, Serge Lavoie. And from Algonquin College, the DSW Worker Cooperative is Laura Rogel-Black. So I know that we won't have much time for questions after. So if there's about 10 minutes, we apologize, but that's about as much time as we'll have after the 3 presentations. So we invite you to come and chat with us at our booth. During the lunchtime, we'll have a networking booth. So thanks very much, and I'll pass this over to Grace.
Can you hear me? Is that good? Okay, so I'm Grace from LiveWorkPlay, and I was helping families and community partners in the Just Enough Housing Task Force. We were partnered with MHI, which is Multifaith Housing Initiative, to get units at the Haven and Barhaven. So we were able to attain 8 units in the new low-rise apartment buildings so that people with intellectual disabilities could move in on their own. We partnered with the Mills Community Support and worked with families and friends to facilitate the Just Enough support planning process. This is a person-centered planning tool. So today I'll be talking to you about the timeline, the process, how we use the task force, and some success stories. Okay, so the concept of Just Enough support came out of work being done by Helen Sanderson and Associates. So the motivation behind the concept was to address 2 key challenges being faced by service. One included the scarce funding resources that were locked into traditional support methods. So the way paid supports were being organized created dependencies in support needs. Seldom got reduced, and the waiting lists weren't moving. So secondly, a lot of agencies were asking, what was the impact of paid support? Was it actually leading to better community inclusion? Or is paid supports helping people develop more paid relationships? So research showed that paid supports were often necessary and helpful, but too much paid support actually created barriers and reduced the quality of life. In other words, at great expense, the system was delivering bad results and immovable wait lists. So HSA began finding and examining success stories of people that were living more included lives in the community, with diverse relationships and who were experiencing a good quality of life. Through this exploration, a few themes emerged. People were identified that they had valued social roles. Also, people were just not just in the community, but they were of the community. So participating and contributing alongside other citizens with and without disabilities. For example, paid work in the labor force, renting an apartment, being a good neighbor, or contributing to the community through volunteer work at a local charity. The more their paid supports were focused on helping the person take on valued roles, as well as creating conditions to foster and support development of natural relationships, the better the outcomes that were observed. HSA also recognized the importance of addressing risks in people's day-to-day lives and how to manage risks, balancing what is important to the person with what is important for the person. This means always starting with the individual and collaborating with their families and friends to find out what the person's vision is for his or her life. What are their gifts, their talents, and what little support can we provide that help the possibilities evolve? So the existing social capital, the family and friends and their networks, is often an untapped resource. So that if harnessed, can lead to new connections, opportunities for taking on valued roles, and quicker opportunities to build a foundation for success. It's important to note that this is a dynamic and ongoing process. It works best when people are being curious and learning rather than closed or thinking we know all the answers. What seems risky for the person today may seem less risky a year from now. New relationships, factors like technology. So technology is often an overlooked and underestimated piece to the puzzle, as there have been many advancements in technology that have changed the landscape of how we can help people be self-reliant. Apps that are available for smartphones and tablets are changing lives. From communication apps to scheduling and reminder alarms, our shared calendars are all tools that we use to help people take charge of their own schedule while at the same time being accessible to their support networks. So text messaging, video calls can make communication more accessible and easy and can help people be accessible to their support networks in a less intrusive manner. Also, advancements in smart home technology like stove management, coded locks, auto toilet flushers, an automatic medication dispenser, just to name a few. They're getting better and more affordable every day. Many citizens with or without disabilities are living their lives differently these days, using cleaning, laundry services, prepared meal services, in-home foot care and beauty care, also home grocery delivery and more. So after starting with the person and their networks, we looked at technology and what the community had to offer And then we filled in the gaps with paid support to help the person get the life that they wanted to live. So to summarize, the Just Enough Support principles are person-centered planning approach, which starts with the person and collaborates with the family and the friends as partners. We recognize the individual's gifts and talents to identify how we can contribute and find opportunities to enrich their lives in the future. Community first approach, looking to take advantage of what is available to all the citizens in the community. Explore technology to increase opportunities for self-determination and risk management. Cultivate and support opportunities for individuals to contribute and fulfill valued roles, and then use paid supports to fill in the gaps. So this is the Haven where the individuals are now living. It's right alongside Longfields Transit Station. It has 30 one-bedroom units, 38 two-bedroom units, and 26 two-bedroom units. So it's a very diverse community. MHI, or Multifaith Housing, is a local nonprofit housing organization that allowed us to have 7 one-bedroom units in their new project called The Haven. It's in Barrhaven. So these members were identified with the partnership with us. So it was more than just a collection of units. The Haven features a mix of townhomes and suitable for families. They have 2 low-rise apartment buildings and a multi-use community space. So they also have a children's playground and a community garden. So MHI always intended for this to be a diverse community with a range of incomes. So we were lucky enough to be able to partner with them. So at LiveWorkPlay, we always keep in mind our vision. What do we want to contribute to develop a community where everyone belongs? So we always try to ask ourselves, why are we doing the things that we do? So when MCSS announced a request for proposals seeking innovative housing models, we had mixed feelings. On the one hand, we were excited for the opportunity to help to contribute to building a community where everyone belongs, in this case, affordable homes. And at the same time, we were concerned about the idea of innovative models. People need affordable places to live and help to live their lives, but they don't need special programs and special places. So the values of the Multifaith Housing Initiative were very closely aligned with our own, and we had conversations about working together. When MHI was successful in their proposal to Action Ottawa, the Haven LiveWorkPlay was included as one of their partners. We had worked with the Mills Community Support in Elmont for person-centered training in the past, and we felt it was important to bring an independent perspective to the lives of individuals and families. For our part in identifying the right individuals to invite to the project, we already knew what people were interested in living in Barrhaven, and we knew who was ready to move. It all came together with a process we started just as conversations, as construction proceeded. People were nervously excited, but ready to move. So we started out originally with 7 tenants destined for the Haven, but one became a couple, so they actually were able to support 8 people because one moved in together as a couple. With just enough support plans in place, LiveWorkPlay helped coordinate natural and unpaid supports for each individual. So it included a tenant from MHI to be matched with the person with a disability. So most of these relationships have continued and in some cases have turned into friendships. So MHI has a tenant committee where it's made up of volunteers. That's another way for tenants to get to know each other and provide support. For individuals that had access to passport or individualized funds, we were able to help them organize their paid supports or hire a worker through another agency or private market. We could also coordinate access to other community services and resources, and we helped them explore technology when needed. Because some of the project funds were slated for honorariums to MHI, they didn't want the money, so LiveWorkPlay was able to partner with MHI to help them give community events like paint nights and barbecues and community gardens. Because time is short, this is a collage of the life of one of the people who lives there. This is Daniel. He has a pretty good idea of what he wants in his life. It's probably a little different than everyone's, but he has his own home where he's in control of his space. He contributes to the labor market with 2 jobs. He has a job at Costco and one at the Works. He enjoys a wide range of relationships, including family as well as friends and acquaintances with and without disabilities, with whom he shares many interests. From inviting people to his home and being invited to other homes, he gets out and about in the community. He also enjoys participating in community events with other tenants at the Haven. So Just Enough Support is about embracing the evolving middle ground in a person's life, where we understand that their paid support needs may change as they grow and learn, and that with any support we are providing, we are not there to replace other roles. Our goal is to enhance the quality of life by supporting new relationships and opportunities, fostering personal independence as well as natural independence with other citizens. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Serge with La Coalition des Familles Francophones d'Ottawa. This is a group of families who are brought together essentially to share information and to represent the families. It includes people who are Francophone as well as many others. We have the various activities and so on. I will not get into all of that today. Okay. Okay, can you hear me better now? Okay. I don't know. Stand up is not going to make a difference on the mic. Yeah.
Check, check, check. See, if you point like this, you can hear it nice. And Serge is going to get up and he's going to loosen it up for us.
Okay. Is that better? All right. Okay. Now, my presentation is going to be to the point. We're going to skip through the slides fairly quickly. First, I will present the context of the project, what pilot projects we conducted, a bit of information on the housing transition guide, and the lessons learned report that we completed, and hopefully what can happen next. The project could not have started without the support of our board of directors, our housing committee that was set up to actually write the proposal and then carry it out with the team, with the support of l'AISO, l'Association pour l'intégration sociale d'Ottawa et le regroupement des partenaires francophones, ainsi que our Housing Task Force members who actually recommended our project to be selected. And of course, the ministry did support us with the funding, plus their own staff have guided us through the processes that we had to follow. Okay. So the objectives of the project was to create a self-assessment tool, better defined, customized housing solution based on the desires of the persons, not the other way around, finding a place just so that it basically fit somebody into a home. And basically, in the end, we want to raise the level of knowledge with the families and also share what we learned through the project. Next one is not so much. Next slide, please. Just the team, but that's okay. Following is kind of a representation of what the system looked like. When we're trying to make heads of sense of things, we know there's a big environment out there. There's all kinds of issues, rules, different actors are involved, so many questions. Plus, one person said, out of our families that participated, we don't know the information that we don't know already. So essentially what we're trying to do is bring together the knowledge of professionals and families together to make sure that we had kind of a guide that would be usable. The pilot projects aim to increase self-determination of people, to reinforce their ability to live as independently as possible, and collect their knowledge into our package. We recruited people to participate in the project in an early survey that we did in 2015 before the project was submitted. And we also had to recruit additional persons as we were progressing. There are different reasons for that, but at the same time, we had to get things done within a 22-month period when a regular planning exercise takes about 2 years. So in total, we had 11 persons involved in the project, in the pilot projects. We had 125 meetings with individuals and their families, and 13 group meetings on various subjects for people to learn more about DSO, ODSP, other things, so they had an opportunity to talk with the service providers, for instance. Essentially, this basically also provided an opportunity for the families to exchange amongst themselves. This became like an extraordinary circle of support. So what we found, we had out of those 11 people, we had people that had different stages of preparation. Some of them were practically ready to go at the beginning of the project, but there were hang-ups about funding, for instance, or about selecting the right roommate. We kind of accompanied the people to do that, but at the same time, it was them that drove the system and also provided input onto the collection of information that's put into the guide, for example. In the end, out of the 11 people, 3 people moved to their own apartments. 3 people moved into a host home or a shared home. 1 person chose to go to a group home. Not all solutions are for everybody, that's for sure. And in the end, also, 4 people have not moved. Our goal was to actually have a minimum of 5 people move throughout the project, so we exceeded the actual performance measure. Okay, so some of the things that people have said, I would say I will suggest that if you read the guide and the lessons learned, you'll have an opportunity to see them. I'll just skip through that and move to the guide. The guide's purpose was to inform people, parents at the beginning of the project, when the coalition had an actual startup meeting to set a committee. We basically said, well, this system is so complex, it's so complicated to get a clear picture. We need something that we can actually go through. There was nothing, in French especially. And what we aim to do is to help the Francophones. Nevertheless, the information is still applicable to anybody. This guide will help people to put into action a transition plan, explore the possibilities outside of the traditional methods, and help families and persons to actually accomplish a move that will meet their needs and their desires. How to use the guide. The guide is not meant to be followed as very, very strictly. It's meant to be used in parts where you need it. There are many parts of it that might apply to you, and some of them might not. So you can pick and choose which part you will want to use. The guide contains a number of hyperlinks and ancrage. Ancrage is a term that basically is sort of an hyperlink but internal to the document. For example, if we're talking about a reference to the glossary in the book, you'll be able to link within the document to the definitions. And the hyperlinks are outside references. I unfortunately cannot go through all the guides. The only thing I would encourage you to look at is on this slide, the 12 principles that we think are very much at heart to do to accomplish a move for the people. Finally, lessons learned. What we learned was that many people want to move, but they don't know where to start. From the people's perspective, the major issue is financial. Many people were worried about the future, and some of them would certainly appreciate getting more support in the future from a team like what we had established. At the beginning of the project, we had a lot of uncertainty about the future funding, which has been resolved basically in May of last year. So we were over a year into the project before we actually knew this fact. Many families are seriously concerned about the lack of affordable housing in their neighborhoods. And also the fact that funding doesn't match the cost of living and the rents in the city of Ottawa. The ODSP uses the provincial median of cost of living, especially for rents, and that doesn't apply to Ottawa. Our costs are much higher. Also, what we know is that organizations representing families should be more active to advocate for self-determination of people and promote their social inclusion. So this project allowed to realize that it should be more active, and I think that like our president often says, our motto is there's strength in force, and there's force in, or strength in union. So l'union fait la force. And finally, what would be desirable to have done? Well, to have done in the future. We should support the discovery of diverse solutions and opportunities for inclusion in a person-centered approach. Encourage families and stakeholders to begin the planning process for housing and employment before the person reaches 21 years old. Strengthen housing transition supports such as those that were provided during our project, and simplify access to affordable housing in more districts in the Ottawa region. Our coalition would like to perpetuate the success of this project. I'll conclude here, and I'll be happy to share publications in the hall at lunchtime. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can I just check with our timekeeper? Do I have 10 minutes, or what time do I have now? I have 15. Okay. So, hello everyone, and I'm going to do my best to speak into the mic, but do just yell at me if you feel the need to do so. You can't hear me. I'm going to try coming out around here, see if this helps. First of all, my name is Laura Rogel-Black. I'm a professor in the Developmental Services Worker Program at Algonquin College, and I worked with Minda Bojan of the Disability Advocacy Network of Eastern Ontario and Julie Kingstone from LiveWorkPlay to facilitate this project. Our project is the Developmental Services Worker Cooperative Development Project, which is certainly a mouthful, but basically what we did was we supported developmental services workers to develop their own cooperative. And today I'm going to talk to you about why we chose to support the development of a co-op specifically, and also just give you a little bit of information about the process that we used. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the participation of our leadership team. These team members came together for 2 days in the summer of 2016, and our meetings over those 2 days really created a strong foundation on which the rest of the project was built. We continued to consult with these leadership team members throughout the project, and their guidance really helped throughout. In addition, I'd like to acknowledge the support and contributions that were made by community members who attended our initial project launch and visioning session, some of whom are here today, and also who participated in our focus groups throughout the duration of the project. So we're going to begin with what a cooperative is. So according to the International Cooperative Alliance, a cooperative is an autonomous association of people who are united voluntarily to meet their common economic, social, and cultural needs and aspirations through jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprises. Although many people here in Ontario are not particularly familiar with the cooperative model, around the world there are approximately 3 million cooperative enterprises providing a variety of different services and taking on many different forms. So our task in this project was not to develop a new model, but rather to see how the cooperative model could be successfully applied to address some of the issues that we're experiencing here in the developmental services sector in Ontario. So I'd like to take a moment now to consider the interrelation of our community members' needs. So of course we know that the health of one individual member of a family is going to influence the health and well-being of the rest of that family unit. But in addition, when we consider the well-being of developmental services workers, that impacts their ability to provide services effectively. And in turn, the well-being of individuals with disabilities impacts the wellness of workers who are offering services. So in our project, we contributed to the development of a worker-owned cooperative, which is designed to improve the employment conditions under which DSWs are working. And we expect that by doing that, we're going to help to enhance the quality of services that are available in the community for people with developmental disabilities and their families. One of the reasons that we chose to look at the cooperative model in particular is that cooperative values really emphasize these ways in which our needs and successes are interrelated. In work that's about creating community, strengthening community connections, and helping people to really participate fully in their communities, it makes sense to us that developmental services workers will need to consider their own needs, the needs of the coworkers, the needs of the people with whom they're working, and also the needs of the broader community in designing and implementing their cooperative enterprise. Cooperatives around the world are guided by an established set of principles. And the first principle is voluntary and open membership. And this means that, in this case, for the Developmental Services Workers Cooperative, that all DSWs who are employed by the cooperative will have a path to membership in the cooperative. And also that their membership in the cooperative is voluntary. There's also a principle of democratic member control, and this means that members of the cooperative have a say in how the cooperative is run. And they will elect a board of directors. The board of directors will be responsible for the management and supervision of the cooperative, but the board of directors in turn is also accountable to the members, who are the employees of the cooperative. Each member of a cooperative contributes financially, economically, to the financial stability of the business, and they do that by purchasing membership shares. Cooperatives are autonomous organizations, and this means that any partnerships that are developed with other entities or organizations must not affect the ability of the members to democratically control that organization. Cooperatives provide education and training for their members on an ongoing basis, and they do this so that members have the skills and abilities that they need in order to influence the direction of their co-op and effectively manage the stability of the organization. There's a principle as well of cooperation among cooperatives. Just as each individual DSW who's a member of the cooperative needs to cooperate with other DSWs within that cooperative, they also recognize that their strength is going to be interrelated with other cooperatives. And so their sustainability can be strengthened by cooperating with other cooperative organizations. And finally, there's a principle of concern for community. And cooperatives recognize that their success is dependent on the success of the overall community in which they're operating and also the natural environment. And therefore, all activities of cooperatives must be carried out in ways that are expected to strengthen the community and respect the environment. Looking at the developmental services cooperative development project goals, so the goals of the project that was funded by the Housing Task Force, we were looking to build community capacity to create alternatives to the existing MCSS funded services. We set out to investigate whether worker cooperatives would present a viable strategy for improving the developmental services sector in Ontario, or their system. We wanted to conduct a feasibility study regarding the creation of worker cooperatives that would provide developmental services in the National Capital Region specifically. We also, can you just forward it? It's not going anywhere. Oh, there we go. We wanted to develop training materials about cooperatives for workers who are interested in building community capacity to welcome adults with developmental disabilities into all aspects of community life. We sought to provide training and foster collaborations among service providers to facilitate the development of business plans for cooperatives. And we also set out to describe the potential for expansion and replication of the project across the province. So we'll take a quick look now at the timeline and the process that we used. As I mentioned, back in 2016, we established a project leadership team, and we held the project launch and visioning session. We then continued with a process of information gathering, and a feasibility study was conducted. That feasibility study carried out in the fall of 2016 and was completed in early 2017, and it was done by a professional cooperative developer. And after we got positive results on this feasibility study, so basically the cooperative development professional suggested to us that, you know, this project seems like it could be sustainable, it could work. Then we moved on to the stage of selecting workers to participate in training. We then moved on to providing cooperative business development to those workers, and the workers who are interested in developing the cooperative have been working over the past year with the cooperative developer to develop the skills that they need in order to launch this business. So in 2018, the Housing Task Force project has wrapped up, but the Developmental Services Worker Cooperative has just been incorporated, and the planned launch of the cooperative is in June 3rd of 2018. So I do want to just highlight that this cooperative that's been developed, the Developmental Services Worker Cooperative, is now an autonomous organization. And the members of that cooperative will set the direction and continue to own and control the Developmental Services Worker Cooperative. And so now, on that note, I would like to introduce you to the founding members of the cooperative. From left to right, we have here Elizabeth Van Coy and Dawn Tate, Claire Maxwell, and Lisa Murray. And some of the developmental services worker cooperative members are here with us today, and you'll be able to chat with them whenever the chatting is taking place in this session. I'd encourage you to meet up with them and hear more about their co-op in later on. I will provide you some basic information, though, about what the cooperative is going to be offering. Their initial service offering will include support for community participation, participating in activities of daily living, caregiver respite, person-directed planning. And the initial service offering includes blocks of time for 3.5 hours, 7 hours, overnights, and 1 hour time blocks, with our expectation that the most popular service offering will be that 3.5 hour time block for community participation. Can do it. Okay. And finally, I'm going to leave you with some of the advantages, both to the worker and to the clients, that we think are going to be part of this developmental services worker cooperative. So first of all, in the worker side, workers working within the cooperative will have the freedom to offer flexible, creative services and to make really meaningful connections with the people with whom they're working. At the same time, developmental services workers who are working through this cooperative, as opposed to just working individually, privately within the community, they'll have access to standard employment benefits and professional development. The billing and accounting for their services will be all managed by the cooperative. Workers will have the ability to set their own schedule, and that they'll be able to inform the cooperative of when they would like to work. And they will have access to competitive wages and profit sharing. Also, we've heard from a lot of the workers that one of the most appealing aspects of participating in the developmental services cooperative is that they do have that ability to really have a say, make a difference in how the organization is run. On the client side, clients will have access to individualized direct support services when and where they want them. They will have the ability to make meaningful connection with the workers who are providing supports. They'll have access to reliable and qualified workers with backup for vacation and sick days. The co-op will be the employer, and that will mean that all of the issues related to billing and responsibilities of employers will shift over to the co-op and not need to be managed by families. Families will be able to, and individuals with disabilities will be able to access services on a flexible schedule that suits their needs. And the co-op is really committed to providing services in a cost-effective way. So this means that they've made a commitment to charge what they need to charge in order to maintain the sustainability of the organization, and to do as much as they can to make those services cost-effective for families and individuals with disabilities. Also, because the survival of the co-op completely depends on their ability to effectively provide services, the services that people in the community want, they are committed to hearing your feedback, to responding to feedback, and to guiding the co-op in a direction that's going to serve the needs of the community. So I'm going to leave it at there for now. Hopefully we'll have a chance to have some questions later on, and I'll be hanging around for the day as well. So if you do have questions about the Housing Task Force project and how that was run, then please do feel free to direct those questions to me. If you have questions about the service offerings of the Developmental Services Worker Cooperative, then we have members of the cooperative here, and their contact information will also be available to you. Thank you so much for your time.